This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
It's the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast. First day of February. Welcome to it. Coming up on the podcast today, the 20 greatest television shows of all time. We're going to start with that criteria first and take a look at shows that are on the list and most notably ones that were omitted from the list. Coming up in the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast, Charity from her home studio in Campbellford this morning, getting ready for the Winter Olympics, which has really snuck up on us, particularly on me. It begins on Friday.
Well, yeah, and not just you, because I will admit, and I was wondering, am I the only one that forgot we even had a Winter Olympics? We just had Olympic Games back in the summer. We usually get a break. But I'll be honest, I had forgot that there was even a Winter Olympics coming. And like you, it did sneak up on me. It was like, oh yeah, wait, no, it's coming up next week. In fact, it's coming up on Friday.
Yeah.
And once again, the CBC will be live streaming the games throughout the duration, beginning on Friday with the opening ceremonies. Now, it is going to be 7:00 in the evening in Beijing, which makes it 6:00 here Friday morning. So Friday morning we'll be able to watch the opening ceremonies. We do have a TV there in the studio, and that's what I remember we did during the Summer Olympics too. We would watch some of the games. So Friday morning, 6 a.m. the kickoff to the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. And you made a good point this morning, and I forgot this, and I think it's very true, that for Canada, I would say the Winter Olympics are a little, I don't want to say important, but maybe a little bit more exciting, or there seems to be more interest with the Winter Games as opposed to the Summer Games. And I would agree with that thought. You made the point, and I would say that, yes, that is true. We are more of a Winter Games country.
My thought process on that was, yeah, there are fewer events overall because you don't do track and field, which is a massive amount of the Summer Olympics, swimming and diving and the like. And there are fewer countries that are competing. And those events that are done in the Winter Olympics, Canadians tend to excel at. So we, for the last number of Olympics, have consistently finished in the top 5 nations in medals over the past handful. And we led when it was in Vancouver. We were the number 1 country, but we're still sending a fair number over to China. And I think we're probably going to end up with about 20 medals. I mean, I certainly hope, even though you've got an astounding number who are going to their very first Olympics ever.
117 rookies this year. That's what they're calling them. Out of the 215 athletes that are currently over there. And that is a large number. It's the 3rd largest Winter Olympic team we have sent. It's behind the 225 that we sent in 2018 and the 222 in 2014. So it's a good number of athletes that will be over there over the next couple of weeks.
I think that's a remarkable number because it's easy for Canada to send a boatload of athletes when it's in Vancouver. But to put all the money in to send them over to China, a lot of countries, if it's not close by, don't send, 3 athletes for one particular one. They'll kind of pin their hopes on 1, maybe 2. So to still send such a large contingent sends the message that Canada is going to show up and show up big in these Olympics. And I mean, I'm pulling for this. It's just something about the Winter Olympics that I find is just a little bit more patriotic. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and you said that about the team, and it is making headlines in other ways as well, the amount of people we're sending over there, because for the first time, we're making history for equality. There are nearly as many women as men being sent over to the Olympics this year. For the first time ever, 106 women. That's the most ever for a Winter Games compared to the 109 men going. So a difference of only 3. So 106 women, 109 men. The most gender balanced Canadian team we've had participate in a Winter Olympic Games, which is amazing. And they range in age from 16 years old. That's the youngest competitor, 16-year-old Brooke DeHaan. She's going to be competing as a snowboarder, to the oldest. And I say oldest, it's not that old. Jennifer Jones, 47 years old. of course, a curler with the Canadian Olympic team. And that's the age range of our athletes.
Not bad at all. We're looking forward to it. I mean, we're going to do great in things like moguls, but we always keep our eye on the ice. So ice dancing and figure skating. Men's hockey team, it's not going to be NHLers, but all eyes are going to be as well on the Canadian women's hockey team when they get taken on the United States. That's just the highlight of the entire winter because it's always come down.
Again, it comes back to why I think we enjoy the winter games more. We are a northern country. We do embrace our winter sports, and we cannot deny hockey is huge. So yeah, it's those teams, the men's, yes, but the women's too. And that rivalry between our neighbors to the south, it's just something about meeting them on the ice that we all just love.
Some great finishes in past Olympics, and we're looking to more of that. So that begins on Friday. And then, as you had in the Pulse this morning, a list came out of, and the headline said, the greatest TV shows of all time. Well, first of all,
we'll use quotation marks around that title. I don't know.
It is a survey of 2,000 people who are alive today to say what are your favorite TV shows of all time. And then they took that list and called it the greatest TV shows of all time. So just to highlight some of these, for example, Friends came out number one, and that would be tough to argue because it was one of the greatest TV shows of all time. So that deserves its pat on the back. Seinfeld is number two. Game of Thrones number three. Then we get to Three's Company at number four. And we'll back up to a few of these. Frasier's in at number five. Rounding out the top 10 is The Office, MASH, Battlestar Galactica, The Simpsons, and The Wire. Not seen by a lot of people. 11 through 15, Twin Peaks, Family Guy, The Sopranos, Sex and the City, and the animated American Dad. And rounding out the top 20, Law & Order, Grey's Anatomy, Bob's Burgers, Community, and Big Brother. So, again, conspicuous in their absence are some of the, quote-unquote, greatest TV shows of all time based on ratings, based on Emmy Awards, based on the influence they had on pop culture that aren't on this list, which is why I'm arguing that this list is not the greatest shows of all time. They're the 20 most popular shows with people who are alive today. Well, maybe 19 and Three's Company, because I still don't know why Three's Company is on this list.
Yeah, I don't understand why Three's Company is on there in the top 5, no less.
Yeah.
That to me does not make sense because, again, you pointed out some great shows that aren't in the top 20, let alone the top 5, such as Mary Tyler Moore Show. Where's that? And one we didn't mention this morning, but I thought of after, and a movie just came out about her life, but I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucille Ball. Mm-hmm. Another big one, All in the Family. A huge, groundbreaking show. Enormous following. Not on there. And some other classics and favorites like Little House on the Prairie. You did mention Murder, She Wrote, and I think you mentioned that more because I love it. But
no, it's true. Again,
shows that during its time, and as you mentioned, pop culture just didn't make this list.
Yeah, when you take a look at the influence they had, and I mentioned Mary Tyler Moore because I'm going to really spread it out and say the Mary Tyler Moore Show allowed Mary Richards, the lead character played by Mary Tyler Moore, to be a lead female character at a time when there were few, if any, Carol Burnett's show, she had her show, where a woman was single and successful and was not simply the wife of the lead character, though she played that on the Dick Van Dyke Show. But if you think of Newhart, and then there was Suzanne Plachette who played, quote unquote, the wife. And there were so many shows like that. But she was a single woman, successful on her own, and the show wasn't about her dating life. And so that you start leading to shows like Ally McBeal, where all of a sudden, you've got successful women because she broke through on that. And that show's not on here, but Bob's Burgers is? Come on.
And in the same vein, going along that same train of thought, Murphy Brown, another one.
Yes.
Granted, that much Mary Tyler Moore kind of set the stage, and then it kind of continued and flowed and shifted. So yeah, absolutely. There are and you open this door, and of course, there's so many other shows you could talk about as well that aren't on this list. Some great ones included, definitely. You mentioned Bob's Burgers, and no, we're not picking on animated shows because I do feel The Simpsons should be on this.
Absolutely.
And they are.
Yep.
So it was great to see them. It's not just, yes, popular, but had an influence over the time, I think, too.
Hill Street Blues not on here. CSI not on here. West Wing, that I think set a record. Cheers is not on here. How is Cheers not on this list of some of the greatest television shows of all time and the influence that they had?
Dallas isn't on here, and you can kind of chuckle because I chuckled myself at even mentioning that.
No,
but as you pointed out, when JR was shot, that was huge.
The fact that we have cliffhangers now is because of who shot JR. Somebody figured that out. Dynasty, one of the most iconic television shows of all time. Then you can start getting silly if you want and say, well, okay, what about Love Boat? Everybody watched Love Boat. Everybody watched Fantasy Island, Columbo, X-Files.
Oh, Columbo.
So when I see Twin Peaks and I wonder why Columbo isn't on there or West Wing, it's like, okay, if you like quirky, where's X-Files then? So
exactly.
At some point, when you say, how does that end up as the 11th greatest show of all time? It's an argument starter, and we had a lot of fun with that this morning, and thanks to everybody who sent in their entries as well on Facebook, and continue to do so on the 95.5 Hits FM Facebook page. Coming up tomorrow, and we're going to talk about this in the podcast. Oh, we're going to talk about this in the podcast. But you want to talk about criteria. Out came a list based on the criteria that I'll specify on the air tomorrow. They have determined what the 10 most safest songs are to listen to while driving, and then the top 10 most dangerous songs. So based on this criteria, what would be safe and what would be and it ranges. Like there's new songs, there's older songs in both lists. So it's got a lot to do with the beat. It's got a lot to do with its distractibility. All of these other things. Yeah. Plug it all into a big musical computer, the most dangerous songs and the safest songs. And then being Wednesday, we will set up our Throwback Thursday for Burger Revolution.
And I am so excited about this week's theme. Do we give it away here or do we wait until tomorrow?
Do we like our podcast listeners more than our radio listeners? I think we need to make a determination of that before we decide. It has a little bit of something to do with a documentary released on the weekend. There, we'll leave it at that.
Yes, we'll leave it at that.
Okay, yeah.
Because, I did almost get right into it there, and it's only Tuesday, but I am just so excited. I'm excited for our songs. I know you are too, because it's a song you just love any excuse to play. So
I can't lose.
You win this week.
I can't see how I lose. And I won the first one of 2022 way back a month ago, and I haven't won one since. I don't see how I lose this week. So good.
I think you have a pretty solid chance, yes,
so good.
Of winning.
Great theme with
week.
two
No
great
question.
songs. So we'll have that for you coming up tomorrow morning. We're going to play a Name That Note, and it's Groundhog Day. And I suppose if you live here in the Quinte region, you get it. If you're from Canada, you get it. Maybe you roll your eyes. I roll my eyes. If you're listening from somewhere in the world and you're sitting there Googling, what did they do in Canada with a groundhog? We should try and explain. Charity, you explain it, because I can't explain it without, dumbing it down.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I have a very different feeling towards Groundhog Day than I did previously. I'll be honest. I know as you like to go on, it is your favorite day. I say that with tongue in cheek, but essentially, yes, we follow the prediction of a groundhog as to whether or not we'll have an early spring or 6 more weeks of winter.
Right.
If you're familiar with the Bill Murray movie, that's kind of where I'm at with Groundhog Day at the moment, and how I feel it's the same day lived over and over.
Yeah.
It's on repeat right now. And I think a lot of people have felt that over the last 2 years. But no, it has nothing to do with the movie other than the groundhog predicting whether or not we'll have spring early or we'll have winter a little longer.
Yeah. So Jason will no doubt have that. It tends to happen around 8 o'clock in the morning, and we all hold our breaths, laugh at ourselves.
No, we all gather around to find out. And it's funny because there's multiple. So then the question comes into play, who do we go with? Because there's Puxatawny Phil,
fake news,
of course, in the States. We have Wyerton Willie here at home. And then there's one out east. What's the one on the East Coast?
Is there Schenectady Sam or something like that?
That's who it is.
Is that what it
yes.
is? Yeah. Yeah, he's a Johnny come lately, isn't he? He is noticed. He's a rookie. Yeah, no, you haven't earned your stripes yet. You don't get to show up on Groundhog Day. Have a great day.
So it'll be an interesting morning.
You got anything big planned for today that I should be aware of?
Well, it's supposed to be another beautiful day. Once it warms up a little bit, I imagine we will get out and enjoy some of those wonderful winter activities that we enjoy so much here in Canada. So we'll probably get out and do some skating and enjoy some of this winter wonderland while it's still here, because according to Wired and Willing tomorrow, it could be gone sooner than we think.
Well, do enjoy it. Look at you all out there, Canadian. We'll chat tomorrow morning. It's the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast and the Mark and Charity Morning Show on 95.5 Hits FM. You'll find the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, linked right here off of our social media sites. Join us tomorrow morning on 95.5 Hits FM for Groundhog Day, February 2nd. Enjoy your first day of February today. Watch the freezing rain. We'll talk tomorrow.